Hi, this is Eva from Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. Looks like nobody got notifications. Maybe everybody's too stirred up with other issues. All right, let's see. We got DD74, Autumn Nicole Ever. Well, it's been pretty exciting with the COVID-19 around here. They have banned any groups larger than 10. They've closed all restaurants except for takeout orders. I've heard in some places they've actually initiated a curfew, which I find of concern because it's not like the virus spreads at night more. In fact, grouping everybody together only in certain hours when they go out to me would actually enhance spread of the virus because you'll have more people packed together. It seems to me like they should allow you to go out later. I prefer to go out at night because it's less crowded. So a weird choice to establish a curfew. It's not like those places had any special crime to my knowledge or anything. So anyway, yeah, I have nothing better. Well, I do have things better to do than, not better, but I have things to do. So some people are stuck at home. So they've closed a lot of stores like Macy's, those kind of places. Some stores won't let many people in at once. There's a lot of people at home, working from home that have more time. But I'm not one of those people because I work for myself and my job is pretty much just me in there anyway. So it really doesn't matter whether I'm home or at work. And people are still buying stuff online, so I'm shipping them. I hope everybody's doing all right. They said that there's 80 cases of COVID in San Diego right now. I don't know anybody who's ill or anything. In fact, everybody's pretty healthy because they've been taking precautions not to get sick, above and beyond. So I don't even know anybody who has the flu right now. I don't know anybody who has anything. I mean, they're not really testing that much. So I guess you wouldn't really know if you had the COVID because last I checked, CDC advice was they would only give the test if you were either hospitalized, like forced to stay in the hospital because you were so sick, and had all the symptoms of COVID-19. And even then, I've heard of people who, were in the hospital for a while with the symptoms, and still they would not test them from COVID. Okay, the other thing they said they would test you is if you have immunocompromised condition to start with and have symptoms of COVID, and or if you've been in close contact with someone who had COVID. Those three. But even amongst those three, it seems like a lot of people still can't get the test. So, who knows how many people there really are. But I don't know. Hopefully with this lockdown, it'll cut back on the transmission. I don't even know, I don't even know what to think about this virus. One thing I did notice was I was kind of looking at the lungs because COVID attacks the lungs. And we've talked a lot about lung changes from the past. I don't know what all timelines you guys are from. But if you look at the lungs, at least some of us, at one time, a lot of us, I don't know now, remember the lungs being tight together, not all this space in here. They were longer, and they didn't have all these lobes. They just had two lobes, one on the top, one on the bottom. And they were symmetrical. This one didn't have this giant dent for the heart. Heart was smaller, didn't need the giant dent. Okay, so those are more recent change. Well, those are older changes. This one, I do not know how old this change is, but the alveoli, which is kind of like the end place where the air goes, I don't remember them looking like sacks of grapes. In fact, I know they didn't because I had asthma for many years. I've researched it. So these are the larger channels. So they had a little bit different structure as far as the villi and stuff that were in there, but they didn't actually look like these grape sacks back then. I'm not sure when this exactly changed, but it was interesting because today I just did a quickie and I just did lung anatomy and Googled that, and these grapes came up, and I have never seen these before. And Lord, I know I have done lung anatomy searches on Google Images many times, and these weren't on there. So that makes me a little suspicious that these might be newer. There's somewhere on here, there was an image of ones with congestion, and it basically showed like little puddles of water at the bottom of each of these sacs is what happens when you have inflammation and fluid buildup in the lungs. And interesting, because I've never seen that before. The other thing I just wanted to kind of mention, because I've been kind of thinking about this, and for weeks now, I do feel like my lungs are just a little bit different. I've had asthma. I had asthma for most of my life. I finally got rid of it, but I'm very careful about my breathing, monitoring it, and like that. And although everything feels clear and I don't have any illness symptoms, and in fact, I feel better this year than I have in quite a number of years. But one thing I have noticed is the way it feels when I breathe is a little different now. It used to be that if I breathed in, it would take kind of a while for the air to fill into my lungs. And once I felt like I was kind of full of air, if I kind of squeezed, I could kind of jam more air in, like several times. Like I had to work at it, but I could do it. And I've noticed now that the air fills faster, so I can suck it in really quick. And also, once I kind of hit where it feels like I'm done breathing in, I'm really am done. It's not like I could like kind of yam more air in there like I used to be able to if I wanted. It's like I'm done. That's all the air that's going in. So it actually feels like my air intake is more shallow in a way because it's just quick, it fills up, and I'm done. On the flip side, as far as my cardiovascular ability, running, that kind of thing, I'm not having any problems having enough air. So clearly I'm getting enough air, but it does feel different. And I'm wondering how much this COVID thing might be a kind of shift symptom for some people, or a mask for shift symptoms. People aren't getting sick with a massive... I mean, if there's a shift, and a lot of people get an extreme problem with their breathing, and there was no explanation for it, then that would freak people out a lot more than if they knew it was a virus and 98% of people would recover and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I kind of do wonder for those reasons. I mean, I can only guess, but let's see what you guys are up to here. Just got the notification. Yeah, my bad again. I need to put the notification up at least 2 hours in advance, but I've been staying. Breathing fills up quicker. It seems like, yeah, see, moonlit illusion, same thing. Anyway, I stayed at work really late, and then I get here late. Sometimes I have my photo all picked out, but I didn't this time. I can't stand the Dettol anymore. I get asthma-like condition. I'm not sure what Dettol is, actually. I heard the test is 80% wrong. It shows positive most of the time. I don't know. If there's so many rumors right now. If I don't like hear a scientific test or rationale for something, then I can't really trust it. And even then, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like our own, I think it was some high-ranking health person in San Diego got up a couple days ago and informed everybody that people who had a COVID-19 but were not symptomatic could not spread the illness. And the reporters were kind of shocked. So they kept asking him, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And he was like, total double and quadruple doubling down on it. And it goes against like what all the experts are saying, that there is evidence that you can spread it before you're symptomatic. Most flus and viruses can be spread before you're symptomatic. So, all the current evidence goes against this guy. And this guy is supposed to be some high-ranking health and muckety-muck of San Diego. So, you can't really trust anybody these days. I mean, I don't know what's really going on, but you have to wonder why this guy is going against all current storyline by the officials of, most of the world right now. Let's see what we got here. An Italian town is currently trying to prove that testing is crucial. Well, I hope it isn't crucial because there's not much of it going on around here. I mean, if it really is the virus the way they say it is, this lockdown thing should help. I don't think a curfew is going to help much. That's kind of silly, but having less people gathering should help. I think there's also a whole bunch of very good research that China knows about, and if you check any of the current available research articles online, that everybody should wear masks when in public. There's a whole ton of really good evidence for that. I don't know what the CDC's been smoking that they don't agree to that, but and like some people, it's all a lie. It could be, I don't know. It could be different things in different timelines. It may be I would not be surprised if a whole bunch of potential directions branch out from here about which way we could go. I mean, it could turn out to be not nearly as deadly as we thought, and only the worst people are even showing symptoms. And it could be that that's just the tiny percentage that has it really bad, and most people already had it and were fine. There's one option. It could be that the weather will get better, and there is pretty good research that the virus does not last nearly as long on surfaces in the heat than when it's cold and wet. It does not like heat and dry. I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say that I can know for sure that it'll all magically all go away, but it could be that the heat will really help, or maybe not much. We don't have enough data, but that's another option, that it could drastically dial back. A couple of people were saying on Retconned that what was interesting is, even though this is like March and usually we're kind of done with rain, a lot of locations have been getting a lot of rain and cold right now. And here in San Diego, we've had over a week of rain and cold. We've got several more weeks scheduled of rain and cold, almost every day, some rain. That's unusual for our area at this time. Usually we're kind of at the end. I mean, not unheard of, but definitely unusual. So, I mean, is it a coincidence? Bad luck? Is it by design? You kind of have to wonder. PCR test is 60-80% false from my research. That's interesting. Maybe you can just kind of give me like the search terms to use in Google. PCR test. Is that what they're using for PCR test for COVID? Let's see what the PCR test is. Quickie. Real-time reverse transcriptase PCR diagnostic panel. Okay, so they're using PCR test. Let's see what the reliability. All right, there it is for our corona test accurate. All right, let me just see what this one sounds a little more mainstream. That doesn't mean it's right, but I just want to kind of get a sampling of attitudes on here. I don't think we need the alveoli one. See if that's going to load. All right, let's see. Now there are concerns about the accuracy of the laboratory tests used to confirm diagnosis. Reports suggest that some people test negative up to 6 times even though they are infected. False negative test results where patients are told they do not have a conditional and they do cause several problems. Yeah, obviously. RC-PCR has been used to measure viral load with HIV and may also be used with RNA viruses. Not perfect, not always accurate. All right, they're only saying only 3% of the study group initially tested negative, and all were eventually confirmed through repeated swab tests to have the infection. False negatives comprise just 3% of the patient population in this study. Might be patients tested too early, faulty reagents. All right, so they're saying 3%, but that is a recent statement from February 2020. Let's look at these older studies now, before they had a pony in the race and before they had potential reason to lie. All right, using culture as the gold standard, overall sensitivity of TB PCR was 78%, and pulmonary, extrapulmonary specimens was 82% and 72%. All right, I think TB PCR is a different animal though, right? TB PCR. So that's a PCR test though. So that was only about 75% reliable for TB there. See if we can get back. I don't really trust anything I've read since January. It seems like, at least not from the CDC, because once they started, in my opinion, really lying about the masks, then I can't blindly trust anything that they say now. I think they're just saying what they think will panic or whatever agenda they may have. It may not actually be the truth. Almost complete shutdown in Germany. Yeah, I don't know. Like, they closed the restaurants. You can only do takeout. You can still go to the grocery store. I don't know of any places that have shut that down. There's a lot of people that are hurting, definitely. Expect something 9 billion next couple of weeks in the Mandela Effect phenomena. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely keeping my eyes open. But so far the Mandela kind of, it just goes in these little surges. Tests show false positive because vaccines have the virus in them. I don't do common cold, okay, so it's a H1N1. Is H1N1 in annual flu shots? All right, wasn't included in 2009, 2010. Is H1N1 part of the flu shot? All right, so there are other H1N1s in the flu shot. The first steps of PCR is to create primers. All right, it amplifies small segments of DNA. So, It's interesting. Okay, so if you got a flu shot, the flu shot does contain H1N1, small amounts of the germ in the vaccine. And then they include an adjuvant, which is basically they use a tiny amount of the actual germ, either dead or weakened. And then they also include like a poison, basically. It's something to stimulate the immune system, and that's basically going to be something immune system hates. So some kind of poison. They used to use mercury, but now they use like toxic metals or anything that will make your immune system freak out. And it basically blames this poison on these little bits of germ. So there, when you take a flu shot, you're getting, just the tiniest amount of germ, because germ is expensive, and the adjuvant is usually something that's fairly cheap, like toxic metals. So they'd rather just put like this much germ and a whole bunch of toxin in you than to actually put a lot of like killed or weakened virus in you. So I'm skeptical. I mean, I'm not an expert. I am skeptical that a flu shot could greatly affect PCR tests, because you're just going to have the tiniest amount of virus in you. Your immune system's going to freak out and nuke that virus. So I just can't see that, you get, a COVID test a month later that you would have a discernible amount of that protein still in you. Unless the PCR is somehow testing antibodies. If it's testing antibodies, that would make sense, but it doesn't look to me like it's testing antibodies. I mean, that's like a whole nother test. I'll have to check into that, though. It's kind of an interesting concept. Broadwater gets to watch the live video thanks to COVID. Well, there's some good that came out of it anyway. Yeah, I won't get vaccinated either, and I'll tell you why. Main reason is that I do have a lot of narcolepsy symptoms. Not, the full bore, but there are levels of it. I don't actually get the cataplexy, was when your muscles stop functioning, but over half of the people don't get that anyway. But I just ran into a thing where the vaccine for the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, which did not exist in my old timeline. There was no giant pandemic with thousands of schools being closed in the USA and all this stuff in my timeline. But in the current timeline, that did happen. There was that pandemic, and there was a H1N1 vaccine that was developed in 2009. And there is a correlation between the later development of narcolepsy and that H1N1 vaccine. So, so it seems like those that are kind of predisposed to narcolepsy who got the vaccine were that increased their chances of getting narcolepsy. So since I already obviously am predisposed to narcolepsy, there's no way I'm getting another H1N1 vaccine. I'll take my chances with the flu. Thank you. There's a huge change in the timeline happening these days, and the quarantine is to try to make less people witness it. Could be. I'm just wondering if people are going to leave the timeline. That's one of my first guesses. What? This is not the first pandemic. No, sorry. I thought you read this on the on Retcon, but yeah, the 2009. So supposedly, I guess Obama's team went through the 2009 flu pandemic, and was in this timeline, and it had a lot of experience with how to deal with that, and was supposedly briefed the Trump team, but Trump fired almost everybody that was in that original briefing. So the people that are now in power didn't get the briefing from the Obama team. Because when one presidential team leaves, they try to brief and train the incoming team, or at least they're supposed to. And supposedly the Obama team specifically briefed them on the hypothesis of a second viral flu pandemic so that they would know how to handle it. So 2009 H1N1 pandemic. See, for me, viral pandemic, flu pandemic is a new word that I've only heard in the last few months. But apparently in this timeline, it comes from 2009 H1N1 pandemic. And then there's another one called MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, I believe it's called, that caused a lot of problems in the Middle East. I've never heard of MERS, M-E-R-S. I've heard of MRSA, the antibiotic-resistant staph infection problem that you get out of hospitals. But I never heard of MERS as a viral flu pandemic. So that was another one. All right, so late November, there was a second peak of illness during the second wave had come and gone in the United States. 60.8 million cases, 274,000 hospitalizations, 12,000 deaths in the United States due to H1N1 2009. %, occurred in people younger than 65 years of age. This differs greatly from typical seasonal influenza or epidemics, during which 70 to 80% of deaths are estimated 70-90% of deaths are estimated to occur in people 65 years and older. This is another thing for me in the old timeline. It's just like the weaker you were, the more likely you were to die. So old people were usually it. They would usually die because they were just sicker. And babies were somewhat endangered too because they were weaker. But now there's like all these storylines like this virus likes younger people and this virus likes older people, and it's kind of weird. I've never really heard that before until like just lately. All right, so let me see, like school closures. You know, there's people on Redcon that remember their entire schools being closed for the 2009 flu pandemic. More than 700 schools in the United States were closed. It depended on the school. I've heard a lot bigger numbers than that was during the first wave. I've heard bigger numbers than that. In my timeline, no schools were closed for any pandemics. I've never even heard of that. Even like stuff like meningitis, I've never heard of a whole school being closed. There was significant variation in the stated goal of closure decision. All right, so let's see. This is interesting. This is 2011, published online. It has the word social distancing in it. I've never heard that word until like last week. I mean, it could well have been, in the vocabulary, but I should have heard it during 2009. The 2009 one is interesting because supposedly the virus entered the United States via Mexico, right on the border, like right over here, like right where I live. So it would have been really hard for me to not know about it. But yet apparently I didn't, or something. All right, so yes, there was a bunch of, I've heard more than, some places I look at is more than 700 school closures, though. I'm more like 1,395 kind of sticks in my head, something like that. So yeah, that's why it's weird because I'm like, never even heard of a bunch of this stuff. I have doubts about what the ME is, but no, I am too stubborn to doubt my memories. Yep. So we really do travel through timelines. It's not an illusion. Well, I don't think there's really any way to coherently say for sure that there are different intersecting timelines, or it's the same timeline, but things are changing and memories are being downloaded, and that maybe we're all getting different memory downloads. I don't think you can clearly distinguish between the two, given the info that we have. I tend to favor the timelines theory, and you got to talk somehow. So, that's kind of the terminology I use. I don't remember any N1H1 vaccine or H1. Yeah, supposedly in 2009, they made a vaccine for the 2009 viral pandemic that this timeline had. On retconned, about half the people seem to remember the 2009 event, including a lot of younger people remembered it, and about half didn't. It kind of seemed like the older people remembered it less. Not in Germany. So the 2009 viral flu pandemic, Germany. Let's see how much Germany got whacked on for that pandemic. Reached Germany in April 2009. What the heck? Why does Germany have a dot way out there? Maybe, I don't know. Okay, wait, this must be that this area, I guess, in there was really heavily infected. It's not loading very fast. All right, so there's just talking about each in pieces infections. One person here, one person there. Until June, the total number confirmed case increased to 49. As of 6 November 2009, the number of infections increased to 29,900 with 9 deaths. Total cases were, as of November 17th, was 85,000 cases followed by death. So the death rate wasn't that high. Anyway, there's not much talk about anything else, but I don't know if you remember. So basically, that pandemic is swine flu. I do remember there's some talk about swine flu, but it then just fizzled in my timeline. Nothing really happened. That's why I wonder now, how many timelines, how many options branch off from here? Because for me, there was a swine flu, but just not much happened. It just kind of didn't take off. But in this timeline, look, there was 85,000 cases just in Germany, 700 to 1,000 or more complete school closures in the USA. No. None of that happened here. For me, none of it happened for me. You're right. No one made a big deal of it, yet 80 million people contracted it. Yeah, see, 80 million people didn't contract it for me. It was like China was having some problems with it and just kind of fizzled and nothing really happened. And see, like they had a specific vaccine for it. I haven't even heard of that. Leah Broadweather recalls nothing about any school closures. See, you would think they'd at least be talking about it. Adam Ant remembers it. The little itty bitty pitty show remembers it. See, it's like about 50-50. I remember the lead up. Everybody's like, ooh, ooh, this is going to be so dangerous. But then it just didn't. It didn't happen. When just fizzled. That's what I remember. All right, so I think that's all I really. Oh, there's one other viral thing I should probably go over, just because it's related to the rest of this topic. This one's kind of just something I stumbled on while I was looking up other things. I just want to say, I'm not really pro or anti-vaccine. I'm not even sure, the nature of illness anymore, to be honest. But I'm not going to say I'm anti-vaccine. But I'm not blindly trusting of the U.S. government and what they say about vaccines either. So I'm kind of a fence sitter on this. So actually, this is not the exact one I was looking up, but it should be. All right, so the story basically, it's called viral interference. And the concept here is that, like, say you get the flu vaccine every year. So the flu vaccine, you can tend to have different strains of very similar viruses each year with minor variations. So every year you get the vaccine and you get trained on these highly related strains. And the concept of viral interference is that that the more you get trained on these specific ones and your immune system is trained in that direction, basically. But what it makes you more effective at kicking butt on those viruses that you've been trained on. But the problem is that there seems to be some research or indication that if a whole new virus comes out of left field, like a novel coronavirus, for instance, with your immune system kind of all trained in that direction and trained yearly that, these are the flus you got to work towards and bone up for, that the immune system gets wimpier and weaker and less prepared to deal with a new kind of virus. And so the new kind of virus can hit extra hard. Basically, your immune system kind of loses some of its plasticity by repeatedly being trained in one direction. So you get some new virus and it hits you harder. I'm not sure if this is the article, but there was an article that I was reading, and it was basically saying that if you get the flu shot all the time, you get less flu of those types. These definitely do get less flu of those types. But you end up getting more of other kinds of infections, pneumonia, other kinds of problems that come that aren't the flu shot, that are not in the flu shot. You actually get weaker on everything else that's not the flu. And so what they found was that hospital visits were the same, because now you didn't go to the hospital because of the flu as much, but you did go to the hospital actually more for these other problems. And the theory also, there was a concern that the flu itself usually doesn't kill you, but some novel virus out of left field might be much more deadly, and you'll need like every molecule of your immune system to fight it. And having your immune system weakened against those novel viruses could be very dangerous. So this is kind of something I've been looking at for years, trying to get a feel for vaccines and how effective they were, especially for the flu vaccine, because, some of the things that we vaccinate from against are really deadly diseases that you really, really don't want to get. But the flu, for most people, is not one of those things. So that's why I really was wondering about flu vaccines specifically, repeated vaccines over and over again against something that is not like a deadly, nasty disease. At what point do you decide that you still want to do that? So this is the first time I've ever heard of this viral interferences. Just I think a week ago, I've heard of it. And, who knows if it was even in my old timeline, if it was really even a concern. But basically, and I don't hear anything about this. So, I mean, this research goes back quite a number of years, some of it. So I don't know, this definitely makes me think twice about getting flu vaccines also for this reason, because you can become much more weak to other infections then. Basically, you're basically losing the plasticity of your immune system. The immune system in the natural world would be exposed to a variety of viruses. Here, this, now that. Not like the same one over and over and over and over again, kind of getting pounded. And also, they inject multiple flu strains into you and then trigger your immune system. So it's like getting 5 or 6 flus a year of the same type, where normally you just get one flu once in a while, not, 5 of them, all at once like that. So yeah, I don't know, but it's something to think about when it comes to flu shots is just what I would say there, because of this viral interference. Again, I'm really suspicious if this was even in my timeline. I've studied this a bunch. I've seen conflicting data, because one thing that really, like, maybe 15 years ago, I read that there was no difference in hospital visits between people who got the flu shot and people who didn't. So I'm like, well, what's the point then? And for years, that was the only data I could find. But then lately I've been hearing like, oh, you do get the flu less if you take the flu shot. But now again, looking at like all cause hospital visits and specific types, they're now saying that your flu visits will go down, but your other visits actually go up. And that is a concern, at least in that one study. I don't know if it was this one, but there was a study that it's actually on my other computer, so. I mean, if there was a deadly disease going around, I think I'd still be up for a vaccination. But for the little piddly stuff, no, I don't. And, again, it doesn't even 100% prevent you from getting the flu, because a lot of times they pick the wrong virus strain. So you're getting vaccinated against something that doesn't even come by. There's a lot of other issues like that. Have I ever seen an aloe vera flower? Yes, I have. I have an aloe vera. I have seen the flower. In fact, that aloe vera is still sitting out there. And years ago, I looked up the flower to make sure, because there's a lot of aloes, different kind of plants. They're not all aloe vera. I looked up the flower to make sure that mine was a legitimate aloe vera. Aloe, that's arborescens. All right, let me make sure I get the exact one. Aloe vera flowers. There's a lot of images here. I want to make sure I look at an actual aloe. Yeah, that looks about right. It looks like the aloe that I know. This one. Yeah. That might be one plant I actually, this one has a little bit more bottom droopies than I really remember, but overall, it looks like it. There is some individual variation, so. See, this one is an aloe ferox here, so it looks different, but it's a different aloe breed. I believe that this is one of the tree aloes, this aloe ferox. Beautiful, but that is, I'm pretty sure a ferox is one of the large, so they have a little bit different blooms. Okay, so I don't see any obvious Emmys in the bloom for me. I've had that aloe. How long have I had it? I've had it like over 20 years. It gets bigger and bigger. And then I took a bunch of pups and I grew those, and I gave away the main plant because it was ridiculously huge. And but the blooms have stayed the same. I don't think they have other choice but to lie to control, because they are afraid of the truth and us to know it. If you're talking about like the masks and stuff, see, here's the interesting thing is China, from what I've heard, for what they're doing about COVID, all their behavior matches the research I've seen. which is kind of ironic when China's over there telling the truth, apparently, and we aren't. But they're having everybody wear masks, which are proven to work. Even homemade masks, all the research I've seen are proven to be effective. N95 masks and surgical masks are better, but even homemade masks help quite a bit in both preventing transmission of the disease and preventing acquisition of the disease. Both ways. The vapor barrier, it cuts back on germs going into your lungs. That does nothing but good. So China had everybody wear a mask in the affected areas, in the heavily affected areas. If you were to go in public, you had to wear a mask. And it works. That's why they did that. We should also be doing that if we're serious. We certainly should not be belittling them. So that's a scoopy. That's the creepy part is like, if this is a control issue, China suddenly is the truth monger here. I think China just wanted to not have the germ. So I don't know. I mean, if it really is a control issue, then all the countries should be on the same page. China shouldn't be over there arguing that everybody should wear masks. And, I'm starting to see it now. There's interviews with Chinese infectious disease specialists saying everybody should wear masks and why. So we're starting to see it just the last few days. So yeah, I kind of, it's like I have two opinions because I kind of feel like there's the one part of me who looks at it kind of as a spiritual, shift-related, potentially destined event that it's hard to really guess what exactly all is behind it. And then there's another part of me that's just looking at the scientific research and the storyline of this reality about what's going on. I kind of feel like I have a dichotomy because I'm looking at one side, then I look at the other. I'm like, well, why am I talking about this if I believe that? I don't know, I don't know. I do think it's really interesting, though, that the CDC storyline does not match the official research of this timeline. So whatever you want to say, what the CDC says is not 100% correct, according to current timeline research. So yeah, there's a lot of people go, okay, this is a power grab. Certainly we've lost some rights. I don't know. Hopefully it's temporarily. Power grab. I've heard all kinds of things. They're going to institute a new world order. I'm really skeptical of that because like every 5 minutes in this timeline is a new disaster that people say are going to usher in the deep state, new world order, power grab, blah, blah, blah. And it never happens. So I think people are just ready to assume that, and I won't go that far. I just think there's too many of these. There's just too many false alarms on this. Don't surrender to the fear of the masses. Yeah, I do say, keep your head. Even if there's a 2% death rate, even if there is, if you're not one of the 2%, then you'll probably be all right. There may be economy problems. How extensive they'll be is open to question. I also do not assume that what we're told is going to be what happens. Certainly there have been a lot of I was told that such and such event would surely cause economic disaster. One of those was the New Orleans flooding. There was a lot of yammer by experts saying that was going to really kill our economy that year, and it didn't. The economy clacked along, and everything was fine. And we finally had the recession. There wasn't really even anything before it that you could really blame it on, other than the housing bubble. So. A lot of times when they said there was going to be a giant economic disaster, there just wasn't. So don't assume. I don't know. They always have all these experts, and it just sounds like for sure our pooch is we're dead meat. And 95% of the time it doesn't come to pass, or not nearly as bad as they said. So don't, all I'm saying is don't, just because there's 100 experts on there saying something's going to happen, it may not. It may not happen at all. I mean, certainly there are people that are hurting right now, without paychecks and stuff. And, that's very sad. But I would not assume that what they say is going to happen is what's going to happen. They've been wrong too many times. I don't know how many of you remember Y2K, but there were so many experts on there just going on and on about how we were dead meat. And then nothing happened, like nothing basically happened. Nothing after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of experts talking about how we were totally going to just, collapse. I mean, people laugh about it now, but back then it was a lot like this, just so many people saying it was the end, it was going to be the end of all. I'm a medical transport driver, so I get masks, gloves with my job. Yeah, and my research suggests that they are reusable. Just don't touch the front. Even 3M says that their masks are usable. They're N95s. Don't touch the front, and do your best to not get exposed, obviously, to excessive germs. Somebody else mentioned on here, and I've also did a little research suggesting that if you do have to reuse, like over and over, spritz with alcohol on both sides, let dry. Should kill any of the germ, on at least in the areas where the spritz could reach. They're saying not to wear them so there's no shortage, period. Yeah, but see, look, okay, our government, from best I can tell, is not purchasing any new masks. They're telling us not to buy them, but they are not purchasing them. The hospitals have a storage, but they're not purchasing them. All right, I can tell you for a fact that there were still quite a few of them on eBay before eBay banned sales. The companies, 3M and many others, have maximized production and are turning them out regularly. Where are those masks going if the public in America doesn't buy them? And if the hospital or the U.S. government is not buying them, which as far as I can tell, they are not, what happens to those masks? Do you think 3M just sits there on their stockpile and doesn't sell them because no, Americans aren't buying them? No, they sell them to the highest bidder. There are a whole bunch of countries in Europe that do not have good production of masks right now because they don't have a lot of production facilities, and they are paying top dollar for masks. Those masks will get sold whether Americans buy them or not. If you buy one or not, like say you were thinking of buying one and then you said, no, I'm not going to buy it so the hospitals can get them. Do you think that the hospital is going to get it? No, they're not, because 3M is going to sell those to whoever's buying, and it is not the hospital and it is not the U.S. government. I was just looking at this earlier. It was like France. I'm pretty sure it was France and Germany. They banned export of masks out of their country so that all of them have to stay in country in case they need them. So, people could buy them in the country, government could buy them, but they can't leave. We have not done that. So, therefore, if you look at 3M, those are all publicly traded companies. Any publicly traded company with stockholders has a fiduciary duty to maximize profits for their stockholders. There's actual responsibility to run the company as good as possible. So they are not going to sit on masks and save them for hospitals when they have a fiduciary duty and actually can get in big trouble if they do not consider their stockholders first. They will sell them to the highest bidder. They are not going to sit on them and not sell them for the hospital. So that's all baloney. That whole storyline is completely contrary to any business knowledge, legal knowledge, international trading knowledge. That's why, here we've got Germany and we've got France. Was it France or it might have been Italy? There's 3 countries, France, Italy, and Germany. 2 of them banned export of sales. One of them actually had the government come in and take control of the production facilities. and probably, of course, did not let them sell it outside the country either. So those three countries immediately pounced on mask production and made sure that they stayed in country. Our country has not done that. So this whole storyline of not buying masks is complete bunk. Complete bunk. Makes absolutely no sense. It infuriates me because it goes against everything that anybody would know that's anywhere, as a business person, these things, are something I have to deal with regularly, even though I'm smaller time. But I actually looked into it, where are the masks going and stuff. There's quite a number of countries in Europe that don't have production facilities. They're buying them as fast as they can. They are worried. In fact, Germany, Italy, and France got a lot of international flack about 4 weeks ago for doing what they did, which is basically, kind of, snarfing all their masks. Because the other states in Europe, the other countries, are having trouble getting them because they don't have production themselves, and they were hoping to buy from those three countries. So they're upset. So there's my point exactly, that those countries need them badly, and they will buy them. You not buying a mask is not going to do diddly squat for any hospital in the United States unless we ban export, and we have not done that. In fact, so many have probably flowed out of the country by now. I mean, any mask you would have bought last week was not going to any hospital, and it will not go to any hospital until we ban export. And you know what? China is turning those puppies out. You can buy masks online and ship it from China. China is still shipping. So, if you're really worried about our country's masks, buy your masks from China. China is sending millions of masks to France and Italy. Yeah, I mean, they're more than happy to churn out masks. You do have to wonder about quality, but again, my research suggests that some kind of cobbled together mask is superior than nothing. So, the worst case scenario, it won't be true N95 or as good a quality as they claim. It's still going to help you. All right, so let's talk about Mandela Effects. Dum, da, da, dum. Seems like I've kind of my giant diatribes against the CDC here. All right, so water deer. Now, I've talked about these before, but every time I look at them, they get longer and longer fangs. So look at that. That's longer than last time I looked. These are an older creature for me as far as Emmys. Was it probably around 2013? Around then, I heard of these. They just had little fangs then. There's little guys. And then they've been growing. This is the longest I've seen them, so they're still growing. But these little guys are getting more and more interesting. First of all, they weren't as derpy looking. When I first saw these guys, they kind of looked like big fat rabbits with I don't know, koala ears or something. They didn't have this giant funny butt. They weren't all, they looked more like deer. They didn't have this derpy face. This is a little bit more like it, but see, they didn't have these lines, and there was only one kind of them then. Now we've got like Chinese water deer, and then we've got Korean water deer. So this is a Chinese guy. And they're definitely looking kind of cute. The ears have widened. I don't remember them being that wide. They were more deer-like. So this species has split. They're getting a long neck now. They're kind of looking almost llama-like. I don't know. They're just kind of weird looking. Look at the fangs on that guy. Chihuahuas, man. Those are some big fangs. So, yeah, cool. Very cool. That one I assume was shot, but you can really see the fang. So they've got some new cool stuff, because I looked into these a few months back. I didn't see what I'm seeing now. water deer. So here's the most creep-tastic part of these guys. Now, I think I remember talking about movable teeth before, but I don't remember it being on these guys. I thought it was some kind of fish or something. All right, so vampire deer. All right, so this is the story of the nickname of them is the vampire deer. As the tusks develop on these vampire deer, which happens at about 6 to 7 months of age, the root remains open until the deer is about 18 months to 2 years old. When fully grown, only about 60% of the tusk is visible below the gum. All right, so you see this giant tusk, it's only 60% of it. The other 40% apparently is way back in the schnoz here, way back in the nose. These canines are held loosely in their sockets with their movements controlled by facial muscles. The buck can draw them backwards out of the way when eating. In aggressive encounters, he thrusts his canines out and draws in his lower lip to pull his teeth closer together. He then presents an impressive two-pronged weapon to rival males. It is due to these teeth that this animal is often referred to as a vampire deer. So basically, they become even more like vampires because they can flick their teeth out, just like, the old stories of legend of actual vampires. So when I first saw these guys, the teeth weren't that long, so you could still eat with just a little bit of a canine sticking out, But now, look at them. They're huge. So now they can flick those things out of the way so they can nosh on their grass and then stick them out. So basically, we've got these like movable, flick out vampire fangs now on these guys. That was the trippiest thing. When did I see that? That was this morning or something ridiculous. But yeah, I was tripping out. I mean, no, they really are like vampire fangs. I mean, we used to just laugh when we would watch Dracula, like, oh yeah, like the fang is going to go out. Well, now they basically do. They basically do. All right, so it's not just that. That is the weirdest thing. But, okay, what other weird stuff about these? I've talked before about how many animals in this timeline are like Stinky. They all scent mark. Used to be like animals would pee on stuff to scent mark, but now they've all got these scent glands. So these guys have two different scent glands that are stinky. One is over like by the eyes, and then the other one is between like somewhere on the leg region, on the back legs. So they have these two scent glands that they stink up the place with. These guys can have up to 7 babies. So they like basically have litters. Now they say 2 or 3 is the norm. It used to be pretty rare that I would ever heard of a hooved animal having more than like 1 offspring, but maybe 2. But these guys, 2 or 3 is normal, and they can have up to 7 offspring. Okay, and they bark. They call it barking. I wonder, to me it sounds creepier than barking, but I'm going to play it a little bit here. Let me just put this on. So this is one of them barking. If it's going to start. All right, that should be enough because I don't want to get a copyright. Some of them sound even weirder than that. You can definitely play them on your own. But they kind of they really sound like a human going, map, map. So another animal that sounds like fake, basically. So we've got... So anyway, yeah, those guys have changed a lot. This whole barking thing, but especially the flick out fangs. That's a new one for me. All right, let's see what you guys are up to. Not many people in, it seems like, today. Hard's Truth, Ronan the Voice, Little Itty Bitty Pity Show. Litters, do they fine? Smack. They were out of gallons. Yeah, liters. We are out of a lot of gallons of milk, thanks to COVID. Quit that. Oh my gosh, which one to start on? Vampire llamas. Yeah, see, it looks a little bit like alpaca. I have to say. All right, so Vatican. What was that? Binocular telescope. Weird. Vatican telescope. Spell it right. Do, do, do. Does the Vatican have the most powerful telescope? The Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, VAT, truly lives up to its name. The Vatican as a world-class observatory has since the 16th century. The primary reason for this is to set the date for Easter. It's a lot of money to set the date for Easter. Does the Vatican have a telescope called Lucifer? Looks like the telescope is called VAT. We get inquiries about a telescope called Lucifer that the Vatican supposedly owns. The story has been circulating for the internet for nearly a decade. Okay, so yeah, it's called VAT. No way. Okay. An example is a very complex, useful instrument designed for the LBT. At its inception, the system was called Large Binocular Telescope Near Infrared Spectroscopic Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research, Lucifer. The full title was descriptive of what the instrument was to do, but it was a mouthful, and noticed that they had to play games with the acronym to get it to spell out anything memorable. I'm sure that the astronomers who came up with this one were amused. All right, so they did have one called Lucifer. As word of it spread, many critics of Roman Catholic Church made the connection with Lucifer instrument for the LBT sharing a mountain with a VAT, which very quickly but incorrectly morphed into the Vatican owning a telescope called Lucifer. So they had something called Lucifer. It still sounds really weird to me that they would allow that to last more than 5 milliseconds. As soon as somebody in the Vatican heard that one of their equipment was called Lucifer, there should have been an immediate nuclear holocaust of anger and demanding that the name immediately be changed. So this is very suspicious. Very suspicious. I mean, as a business owner, and I'm not even half as picky as I'm sure the Vatican would be, I would immediately have a giant cow, if I were to find any of that happening on my watch. The fur would fly. You just have to wonder about this reality that's just trolling us. It's like a giant, massive reality troll that they would have any large piece of equipment called Lucifer. And like the name, who names all that crap? You're not going to name something like 50-foot long sentence that just happens to spell out Lucifer? Please. Nobody noticed it spelled out Lucifer? Nobody in the whole, come on. All right, so research did that a year ago and it was only called Lucifer. Yeah, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. Different timelines, different baloney. Later renamed Lucy. Yeah. So, how are you? Just saying, I'm sleeping, not here, just want to say goodnight. Well, thanks for coming in. I didn't even notice you were in there. Didn't get to many Mandelas, but I did get a giant Vatican, CDC, U.S. government rant in. Got to have my important rants in today. I don't, logic, I like it. And so it just kind of makes me crazy when all the research says one thing. And not only is the CDC, but like everybody around me is like blindly parroting this stuff. Very few people even, I don't think anybody's checked my research. Nobody can argue with it. But they all just, whatever the CDC says must be true. And why aren't any news reporters saying, hey, wait a minute, Why did the Vatican not have a giant cow when one of their big pieces of equipment was called Lucifer? They should have been through the roof. I would have immediately been on the horn personally demanding they renamed it. All right, so, okay, there's the water deer giant rant. So we'll put that guy up. None of this stuff in this timeline makes any sense. I mean, I've long thought that this was kind of like opposite world, like the Earth, but it's getting like much more blatant. It's like just like so in your face, but yet nobody can see it. It's like it got more blatant, but people got more blind. So even though, I mean, this kind of thing, people should have called them on the carpet on all this stuff. But most people are just like, just going along with it. That's what kind of makes me crazy. All right, so another weird thing that we kind of stumbled on was, see who came up with this one. Darn it, it was somebody on Redcon too that found this for me, but I didn't write down the name like a dork. Apparently there's some kind of big fat comet coming by in April or May. And we might be able to see it in the night sky with the naked eye, and it'll be like green. Green comets are pretty popular lately. I have not really even heard of it until the last year, but yeah, I guess green comets. So it'll be around for a bit. They're not sure how bright it'll get. This kind of makes me confused too, because they're like, oh, it's getting brighter. I guess in the current timeline, they get brighter and less bright depending on what they're flying through, and we can't really predict it. But if they get really bright when they're nearby, we'll be able to see it, but maybe not. This whole storyline is new to me, anyways. But yeah, so that might be the next weird sky phenomena. Might be this comet, if nothing else comes up. I mean, like all the new supermoons are getting to be like old hat now. So we had a bunch of supermoons. We've had a bunch of eclipses. So I don't know what it's. I feel like they got to come up with something else now. So maybe it'll be creepy comets and stuff. I mean, there's certainly a lot more cometary ranges that we fly, like the Earth supposedly flies through. So we have more comet, like meteor showers now than we used to. A lot more. But I feel like the Emmy's got to. It's like kind of like an action adventure TV show. Each season they have to come up with bigger and weirder and stranger adventures. And I kind of feel like the reality is kind of stuck in that game too now. Like, we've got this, so now what are you going to do? Let's see it. Well, I guess one of them was COVID, maybe. So let's see what the next big weird thing will be. So from the sky, we've got this comet thing coming up. Oh, and the black and white chickens. I didn't look that one up. Chickens. I don't know. There's probably a specific one that you're looking for. These ones aren't that weird to me. My mom used to raise chickens. They're really cute, these guys. I was hoping she'd get one so I could get the feathers, but there's a lot of weird chickens. There's more weird chickens now than there was even when my mom raised them, though. White crested black Polish chickens. So we had the crested chickens, but I don't remember the white and black ones. We got one of the cresteds, but it didn't have white on the top and black in the bottom. He was the most aggressive chicken. He was a nasty little rooster. He would even attack all the hens. He was really mean. And he would just attack blindly. We actually ended up eating him, because he was just a terrible chicken. Roosters usually protect the hens, but he just would attack everything. You couldn't even stick your hand in there. He was just, he was dumb. You'd smack him back with a broom and he would just attack immediately again. Nasty little thing. We've never had a rooster that mean. I mean, roosters sometimes try to stab you with their spike when you're not looking, but they're usually sneaky about it. They don't do it every time. Some of them don't do it at all. A lot of them only do it if you get too near their chickens. But no, not him. He would just attack at all times if he saw your face, basically. Let's see. All right, so that's that. Okay. Speaking of stinky animals. Well, apparently snakes now stink. Never heard of that, but a lot of them do. They emit a really nasty smell out of their cloaca. And it's not just pee and poo. Now, I used to always say I like snakes because they don't stink. They're very clean. But apparently now, and this surprises me because I actually do, me and other people I know do sometimes handle the wild snakes that are not poisonous, like, for instance, the king snakes, especially if you handle them gently. Usually they won't even bite you or anything. But if you grab them, sometimes we want to relocate them, grab them by the neck, and they're upset. But they never stank us up. But apparently now a lot of snakes can really stink you up. Not only do snakes swim, creep, climb, and not only do they have venom and grow powerful enough to strangle us, they also can stink us up like they're skunks. So they're saying that this stink, it's not as bad as a skunk, but it sticks around a lot longer. It's even harder to get rid of than skunk. And skunk is pretty hard to get rid of, so that's saying something if it's harder to get rid of than a skunk. See, this musk is secreted from the cloacal scent gland. Many snakes produce it, and it's a complicated mix of organic compounds. It seems to be useful for many things. Snakes use it to mark their territory. Never heard of snakes marking their territory. It might be instrumental in selecting a mate. Female snakes, who are generally more rank, will borrow musk from males in order to chase other males away. Never heard of that kind of sophisticated behavior from a snake. As for its effect on mammals, little is known beyond the fact that it is mixed in the lab mammal's food the mammal will refuse to eat. We can hardly blame it. The scent is a calling card not only for snakes, but for herpetologists. It's not as strong as skunk spray, although some people do vomit when exposed to it. So it's pretty bad if you're going to vomit when exposed to it. But it is more durable. Well, skunk can be disarmed with hydrogen peroxide and baking soda. This is true to a large extent, by the way. I keep those two on hand in case some kind of skunk material gets on me or any pets. You can get rid of most of the smell so that it is not horrible. Snake musk hangs on through multiple washings with whatever substance anyone cares to use. What's more, chemicals in it are reactivated with water. A seemingly clean item of clothing or patch of skin will give off odors again when it gets wet. All right, so it's basically a whole lot of skunks can now, I mean, a whole lot of snakes can now basically kind of skunk you, and it smells so bad that some people vomit. So, yeah, no, sorry. No, that was definitely not in my timeline. And me and my peeps have handled enough of them that we should have gotten it by now. It's always been the case that once you got to hold that head, so that it couldn't bite you, then that was all of its power. Yeah, if it couldn't bite you, and obviously you don't want it curling around you, but the ones we handle aren't that big, then you were safe. There's never been a danger of getting skunk sprayed from a snake. That's like ridiculous. But like I say, everything's smelly in this timeline. Does Elon Musk stink also? Is he a snake? I don't know. In 2 days, expect a mind-blowing ME. We ate him because he was a terrible chicken. The thing is, chickens, they don't last that long. And my mom really did get them in part to eat some of them. So if you're really, then she ended up hating killing them, right? But if they were really violent, or if they got injured and couldn't get fixed or something, then she'd usually get some other sucker to finish them. Like she had some Filipino friends who were pretty used to killing chickens who would do it. But yeah, he was just a mean chicken, man. He was just a mean rooster. Stinky snake. Now I've seen it. Yeah, you have smelled everything. Sucks when the dog gets skunked. See, and we had a dog that was always attacking snakes. That dog never got skunked by snakes. Nothing good for that. If you're talking about skunk, my dog got nailed like big time. And I'd heard about this. You mix up the hydrogen peroxide with the baking soda, and you have to mix it fresh and put it on fresh. A couple drops of like dishwashing liquid. It's just to help spread it around. So those three, but mostly it's the baking soda and the hydrogen peroxide. You cannot mix it in advance. You have to mix it right before. And they're all cheap. Those are cheap ingredients. And then you spread it all over the animal with a little water and rinse. And then do it again. The main issue is around the face, as my dog got nailed right in the face. And those hydrogen peroxide hurts the eyes, so it was very tricky trying to do that face by the eyes. But the smell, it got rid of about 99% of the smell. You could still smell it on the dog, but you wouldn't run screaming, and you weren't terrified to have it in the house. So basically what I would do is I would do the initial washing, the first round, with the dog outside with a hose so that it wouldn't spread any stink into the house. Then when I got like the majority of the stink out of the dog, I took him into the shower for the second round. Your dog will be acceptable after that. It won't be too bad. You're still going to smell something, but it's like, that smell of skunk when it's really, really far away. It'd be like that. I could not get it out of the dang collar, though. I actually ended up throwing out the collar. For some reason, she had a leather collar, and that leather just sucked up the smell. So seriously, though, if I would be really surprised if you tried hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and soap and did not find that it at least got rid of most of it. She was definitely tolerable, and I didn't mind her sitting like on the couch and stuff because she wasn't spreading the smell. When you're camping in a chit tent with a skunk dog, it will make eyeballs water. Yeah, it will. If you don't. I mean, when I used to go camping with my dog, I brought hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and a dash of dishwashing. I brought it because of that exact problem. Usually, the dog will be near a river. I mean, most places we went, there'd be a river near enough. But if not, some towels and some water. You do have to rinse that off. But hydrogen peroxide works as antiseptic too, so it's a good thing to have along. I thought tomato juice is rummy. No, tomato juice doesn't do diddly squiddly. Your dog then just smells like tomato juice and skunk. It doesn't do anything. I don't know. Maybe in some timeline, gajillions of years ago, it helped, but it doesn't do anything for, the last 20 years that I've known of. Mark their territory how they don't have a leg to lift. Yeah, I know. You imagine the snake leg lifting, because it used to be just, mammals that did that. I guess it would just scrape its butt over things. I don't know. But yeah, really, Vatican snake hall. Oh yeah, I know about that thing. You're talking about that funky sculpture. That's been on. In fact, the head of Jesus with that funky hair thing, that keeps changing. I actually have one of the live streams has that for the thumbnail. Have I looked at the human skull anatomy? Oh yeah, that was one thing I was going to mention. I looked a few weeks ago. I didn't see anything, but earlier today when I was looking at lungs, I forgot my other thing. Basically, I looked at this and then I came straight home and I hadn't written it down. The sinuses, that was the other thing that I've really noticed lately that I keep forgetting to tell you, is that I really noticed that I know I've seen it before, that it looks like the sinuses are a lot bigger up in here, and I've commented on it. But this last few weeks, I actually feel it. I really feel like so much air goes through my head. It's kind of a weird feeling that the sinuses are just like so much. And so I looked it up earlier today, and here's the current sinus passages, and they're huge. I mean, I've shown this one type of one before. I swear they're bigger up here, though. These ones over the eyes are, on the frontal view, they look huge. So there's a lot more bone here in the nose, but these side sinuses, I mean, look at that. Look at how big those sinuses. They're huge. I mean, it makes sense that the mouth has to be kind of big, but a lot of this is tongue and teeth and stuff. Why, they're massive. So here's the eye, like right in here. So these little sinuses look so tiny, but then when they view them from the front, they look huge. So that one's kind of something I'm trying to figure out. But so yeah, I'm not sure when this changed. I swear in me, it feels like a lot changed in the last few weeks as far as the giant gaping hole. It's like half my face is empty now inside. Truly an airhead. All right, I've seen these before. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it. There's all these weird little sinus bits. There's like a weird sinus by the ear, sphenoid. That's sphenoid sinus. There was this frontal sinus. Yeah, that's the one above the eyes. I don't sphenoid sinus. I noticed that a few months ago. I'm not sure when it showed up, but yeah, just weird. See, this is the top of the mouth. Oh, that is sinus. So respiratory system, just it seems quite a bit. Look at that. I mean, it's really basically got more volume in it than the mouth does. That one's a tiny one. I want to see what they're labeling this bit out here. It's I can't quite read it. Oh, that's the sphenoid. Okay, interesting. I haven't seen it portrayed that large yet. All right, so that's sphenoid sinus. That's interesting because last I checked, it was a sphenoid under the ear. It seemed like it didn't drain into the main cavities, but now it looks like it does. Anyway, so yeah, sinuses continue to be massive. See, like here, sphenoid sinus. That was a really tiny sinus last I looked, and it wasn't attached like this image shows. I was looking actually into the anatomy of the ear, and that's when I saw that. And they were saying it gets clogged, but if it's attached to the main sinus, it would be less likely to get clogged because it could just drain. So kind of weird. See, this looks like more like how I kind of remember it. Look at this, how tiny it is on there. Okay, anyway, so yeah, weird. I think I've got that whole page. Haven't candled my ears in over 5 years. That explains why my nasal has more fluid lately. Could be. To me, it just feels like so much air can go through there. It would be nice to wake up to the ME and not have asthma anymore. I would definitely experiment with diet and food exclusions if you haven't done that already. I actually got rid of almost all my asthma, like 99% of it, by not eating wheat. And then later I can eat a little bit at a time as long as I don't go crazy. It's like the longer I didn't eat wheat, I would have more leeway. So I can, sometimes I'll eat wheat, but I try not to eat it too much. I did notice I kind of like got really lazy and started eating it every day, and I could start to feel it in my lungs again. So for me, it's basically wheat. And when I stopped eating wheat, I stopped getting asthma, but I also lost all my other allergies. Used to have a cat allergy, gone. I used to, I get the sneezing, the runny eyes, the stuffed up nose from cats. I would get it from pine tree pollen, all that yellow pollen during certain seasons. I could barely breathe. That would make me crazy. There's a bunch of stuff. And it's all gone. It's all gone now. I don't have any of those allergies. Like wheat was driving all of those allergies. Don't even ask me to explain it, but. A friend of ours got the skunk perfume and used the tomato juice to get rid of it. Apparently in that timeline it worked. Could be. You got to wonder about, stuff like this now. I mean, in the old days, I'd just be like, oh, everybody's dumb. But there's so many stories like that where everybody swears on something and then, like, how can it be so non-functional? So it could well be that the maybe the acidity in the tomato juice at one time was enough to dismantle the smell, but then later, as the animal evolved, it didn't work anymore. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so got that. All right. A while back, I had those crazy worms, and I really did wonder if we were having a lot of changes in the worms. So apparently, yes, we are. All right, let me go to the proper one here. So apparently, earthworms, specifically night crawlers, are like incredibly rapid in this timeline. So there was a video on Reddit, and there was basically these worms were in her yard, and as she walked, they would all go into the ground. Like, it was totally spooky. I've never seen. Usually, earthworms are just rolling around languidly, weak and wimpy. But in this timeline, at least night crawlers, but a lot of times I see them just referred to as earthworms. They really can move. They can really move. So let's see if we can get this YouTube video to load. Hopefully I won't get a copyright. Who owns this thing? Nicholas Van Huelen. Okay, so there is an earthworm. I should probably, hopefully you'll be able to see it. Look up these videos because they're freaky. I think I would probably scream if something moved that fast. I'm not really a screamer, but I would definitely jump.
How fast?
No.
Kill the sound. Darn, I can't see diddly. All right, so basically there they are. She's going to poke it. And this is not sped up. This is how fast they are. Just like that. Boom. Everyone she pokes is just... You got to have the sound effects. They're so quick. They're so quick in this timeline. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And there's a lot of videos like this. Let's see if I can find. The actual original one was the best one. Let me see. The fastest earthworm in the world. We found an earthworm on the walkway in Florida. Then we tried to move it. I have not actually seen this video, but I'm going to have a little bit of commercial. Yeah, see, no, they didn't used to go like that. Is one effective little wiggler. You can see something move that fast, it could slurp into the ground, but I've never even had ones that had that good of a hole that they could instantly just disappear into it. It's like they have their own burrows or something. So it used to be, you know, they would get into soft soil and they just you know, they wouldn't just be like, but yeah, apparently they're pretty quick here. The worms are now moving like Speedy Gonzales. Yep. You know, you would think that maybe it was a sped up video, but no, I found a whole bunch of videos just like that. And you could see the people walking, and the people were not sped up. So that's just how fast they are here. My daughter went carnivore, totally turned her health around. She has lost 63 pounds and is way healthier. You know, if you don't eat carbs, you will lose weight pretty much. I mean, you almost, everybody will. There's a number of theories why either low fat or low carb will work, but it seems like low carb is the best for weight loss. I've known a lot of people. It's kind of hard to eat that way long term because, you know, carbs are tasty and you've got social events and stuff. But yeah, sometimes just eat like, you know, just eat a few things, and if that doesn't work, then pick 2 or 3 other completely different things. Only eat those, and just see if you can find, you know, what's causing the asthma. Because I swear it's so much it's food. It's just that for some people there's like 5 or 6 things causing it. So if they just cut one out, it doesn't always go away. Did anyone know that you can erase your comments in chat? I just found this out. Yeah, you can, and what'll be left is like, it'll just say like, I think it says retracted will be written there, but the comment will be gone. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't know. I think you just click on this thing here on your, see, I can do it for against everybody because I'm like the, you know, I'm the owner of the channel, so I can delete your stuff, but normally you would only have these button options next to your own comments that you could delete them. Night crawlers have always moved that fast, and in Michigan, people would go out at night and pick them up. Well, yeah, you pick them up for fishing, but they weren't like, I don't even know how you'd pick them up, but they're going like 1,000 miles an hour. In fact, the video was by somebody who was native to the area and never saw them do that. So I think it's in some timelines, but not others. But yeah, anybody who has night crawlers, I mean, do you remember him that fast? See, Adamant, this is message retracted. He removed his. So all that's left is this. So you can see that a message was removed. You can't like, you know, you couldn't go like, oh, I never said that. You're imagining things because there is evidence that a message was there. Yep. So you guys are learning it. All right. So, bloop, bloop. All right. Let's see. I think it was last week we talked about the heat sensing pits on the snakes. You know what? One thing I never did because I was in such a hurry. I'm just gonna make sure that my computer is lined up with my face. Dun, dun, dun. There, it's a little better. I usually do that before I turn on the show, but I realized I didn't do it. Okay, so don't start erasing your messages. I wonder if I can see. Can I see what you... I don't think I can. I can't see it if you retract it. If I retract it, I could see it. Okay, so speaking of heat sensing pits, what other animals now have heat sensing pits? And it's not just snakes. And this is an animal that surely you would have known if this had heat sensing pits, because this is an animal all near and dear to many of us. And it's not cats, but weirdly, I've heard like these weird, vague statements about cats having heat sensors in their skin. I'm like, isn't your skin a heat sensor? But there's like, I think something's happening with the cats with the heat sensors, but it's not developed yet. Because I'm like, what do you mean cats have heat sensors in their skin? Your skin is a heat sensor. So, of course, everybody has heat sensors in their skin. But there's some kind of weird, vague statements developing with cats, but they're not there yet. Other than that, they're saying cats have heat sensors in their skin, but won't give any other information, which makes no sense. That's why I think it's an Emmy in transition, because they make the least amount of sense when they're in transition. So, what else has heat sensors in their skin? In their nose? Dum, 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 dum. Dogs now. They have infrared sensor in their schnozola. So they're saying that's why dogs' noses are wet and cold, because they have a heat sensor in their nose, so they can't have the surrounding nose flesh material all hot interfering with their infrared nose sensor. So they basically then are like snakes, that they can sense, even with their eyes closed, they could sense like kind of a vision of, like that night vision that we have machines for, that you can, when a hot thing is there, you can see, like the police use this because the helicopters will fly over and people will try to hide in the dark, but they're giving a lot of heat off. And so the heat sensor will show, this human-shaped blob of red running under, across the street and stuff, like totally bright because of the amount of heat. So apparently doggies are supposed to be able to do that also. So they should be able to like find you in the dark and all that kind of stuff, because they have an infrared sensor in the tip of their nose, which enables them to detect minute changes in temperature, such as when other animals are nearby. Scientists found that the naked, wet skin surface of the tip of a dog's nose, which is full of nerve endings, worked as an infrared sensor. They can sense thermal radiation coming from warm bodies or weak thermal radiation, and they can also detect their behavior according to this signal. It's possible that other carnivores possess a similar infrared sense. And that adds a new chapter to the story of predator-prey relationship. So a long time ago, they started saying that about snakes. And I do remember I was maybe like 20 when I first heard of that. I was a little bit surprised that I hadn't heard of it before. At that time, there was just, like the dogs now, is how they would say it. There was just like, the sensor was in there, but you couldn't see any exterior obvious evidence of it. Over time, they called it a pit, and I used to wonder why they called it a pit, because there was no pit there. But now in snakes there is a pit. In fact, many snakes are getting multiple pits. All right, so now where the snakes were many, many years ago is where dogs are, where they're saying there's an infrared sensor hidden in there, but you can't really see it. I'm wondering if over time we will be able to see it. Actually, I've said before that I feel like there's some changes to the dog nose, as far as the curliness of the end of the snout here, and how the dogs that have this, I don't remember. There's a lot of variation now. I don't remember it being so curly in here. Don't remember this split at all. I don't remember the snozzle, the nostrils being that big. And some of them, that used to be more just like ordinary holes instead of all curlicue in here. So I'm wondering if where the pit's going to show up. Is it going to be in this strip, or is there going to be like something in here? So I'm going to keep an eye on that because I want to see where they say. Right now they say it's the tip of the nose in here. So are we going to get like a dent or something in there where that's supposed to be? I have to say I don't remember this much division right in here in the nose. So maybe that's where the pit is going to show up. Yeah, look at that. Actually, last time I looked, I didn't see this split. What is the purpose of that split? Weird. I also don't remember this way back. There was just a hole, and this is spread around. The split in here is spread around and around, very slowly. But yeah, I do feel like they've changed. There's actually quite a bit of variation. See, this one has all this material underneath, and then some of them don't appear to have all that material. I don't know if it's just a different color, but this one looks quite different than, say, this one. So I don't know what's going on with that, but anyway, keep an eye on it. All right, so doggies have heat-sensing pits. All right, and who else has him? This is not going to come as that big a surprise once you think about it. So vampire bats are known to detect infrared radiation from their prey using specialized pit organs located around their noses. They found that bats produce two different forms of heat-sensitive ion channel, a protein that controls processes of cells, blah, 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 blah. Let me see if they have an image of these pits. You know, we've discussed before the noses of bats have become ridiculously weird, crenulated, funky. I wonder if that's the pit up in there. I mean, there's so much going on with the nose now. It's crazy. So they're saying that these pits, they can basically see where the veins are in an animal, in the arteries, by the heat. I guess it would be the veins more. The veins are hotter, and so they show up. So these bats can basically detect the veins and bite right down on them because of their heat sensing organs. So not only they have echolocation in this timeline, in my old timeline they were blind, and that's why they had to have echolocation. But in this timeline they can see just fine. They have echolocation and they have infrared vision. So they're pretty studmeister in this timeline. All right, that was the other one. All right. So what else can they do? Apparently, cats and dogs can also see ultraviolet now. Now, when I first heard of this seeing of the ultraviolet, it was bees. And then they said, oh, flowers have ultraviolet patterns that only bees can see. It was the big fancy deal. But in this timeline, cats and dogs and other mammals can see in the ultraviolet. Was about 10 years ago, they said humans could see in the ultraviolet if our lenses were removed, because they're saying the lenses block the UV. Doesn't really make a lot of sense why our lens would block it and all these other mammals' lenses wouldn't block it. But actually thinking about that, there's also some other issues. Okay, so animals' lenses don't block UV, but ours do. And so the story then was that some people who had their lenses removed but were not able to take replacement lenses for whatever reason suddenly were able to see UV. And there's not like a lot of those people, but they were able to see UV and they were able to see the flowers like the bees see them and all this yammer. So why is it that our lenses block UV? I don't know. I'd like to hear that storyline. But I also wonder why, like when we have lens replacement, the new replacements also happen to block UV. Isn't that a coincidence that we still can't see UV? All these people get lens replacements and they still can't see UV. I mean, you'd think they'd suddenly be like, wait, I can see more stuff now. But nope. Anyway, so this is very suspicious. I've never heard of cats and dogs and other mammals being able to see in the infrared. So it's the UV, it's the ultraviolet. Reindeer rely on ultraviolet light to spot lichens that they eat. So that's beyond violet. So it's not heat. It's like, beyond purple is the color they can see. Can cats see things humans can't? All right, so that's a new one. See what you guys are up to. Blind is bad as an opposite meaning now then. Super sensing ability. Yeah, because they're not blind and they can see heat and then they can echolocate. That's pretty studliferous. So, like when it's dark and your dog can find you, I always assumed it was that, the smell. I'm sure humans give off quite a smell to a dog. But now apparently it's also might be because they can smell the heat, basically, sense the heat. Dogans. Yeah, so you guys guessed. Dark Wolf's Den. Yeah, Dark Wolf, if you don't guess a canid right away, I'm going to have to smack you. So yeah, something I think's brewing with the cats. They have heat sensors in their skin. That doesn't even make any sense. Everything has heat sensors in their skin. My cat 361 phone has FLIR thermal imaging. Yeah, and so does your dog. It's how they find enemies and indoor weed grows. Yeah, with the FLIR. Yeah, my friend was in the military, and he would go in the helicopters, and they had the FLIR. Do cats have night vision? Yeah, they have infrared. Now, it used to be that because they would just say that because the cats have that reflectivity in the back of their eyes, they could see the light coming in and going out. So it doubled their ability to catch the photons. So that helped them more efficiently use the minimal light that there was. And the other part of the storyline was that they had cones are the color sensing cells in the eye, and rods are the black and whites. So the story was always that the color sensing cones could see color, but they weren't as good in low light, and that's why at night we can't see color. We just see black and white if it's dark, black and white if it's dark. So the story was that cats had a ton of rods, and so because of that they could see better at night, and that they had the reflectivity of the back of the eye to give them a double opportunity to catch the photons. So for those two reasons they could see better at night. But now they have like heat vision apparently too, so that'll help. Frogs people are vertical or horizontal. Well, they used to be round, actually. Because of the hard times in our homes, Eva should do 2 live streams. The thing is, they'd just be shorter because I would have, the same amount of material. Plus, I am been working very hard. I will have, at work, so. Actually, business was way down in January, February because of the internet sales tax. So actually was working really hard to get new product up and running, new ideas with new products to kind of throwing a lot of stuff on against the wall, basically, see what sells, and then expand that area of product. So I'd been really kicking it into high gear to do that, to try to catch my sales back. Then when people started getting locked in their homes, actually sales exploded for a while because people just had nothing better to do than shop online. Now it seems like it's leveling off. So, I'm worried because I don't know what's going to happen, 3 months from now if the economy goes bad. So I'm trying to like suck up all the income I can now in case it gets worse later. Plus, I have taxes coming, so I got to pay those. So even though I've got kind of a pile saved up, a lot of it's going to go to taxes. So unless Trump like suddenly says we don't have to pay taxes, but it's going to get tricky because he can say that for the feds, but I'm still going to have to pay the state tax, which means I have to do my taxes unless, unless the state also, and they're not going to like forgive you your taxes. You're still going to have to pay them. So anyway, I'm just going to do my best to pay the things. Bats used to have little piglet noses. Yeah. Now they have this crazy, oh my gosh, noses. Do they have heat-seeking missiles? Yeah, just wait. Just wait. Well, a lot of, you've got those fish that can shoot like water streams up into the, and nail insects and stuff. That didn't used to have those. I just need one of them gooses that laid them golden eggs. Yeah. I think the deep state would have those before you did, though. There's no way they're going to let those things. It would ruin the economy. Everybody would have gold. Gold would stop being valuable if you could breed chickens with them. Something that was proof of how Emmy changing and the corona. I got to say something about the virus. People are saying, oh, this is going to make people be more standoffish. I have. Oh. Great. So I'm buffering. All right, it says reconnected. This probably on my end, you guys. Hopefully I'm back. It says my internet disconnected briefly. Internet's been erratic. Eva, 2 hour mark. Really? Oh, yeah, it is. It's 2 o'clock already. Okay, so am I back? I'm assuming you're on a delay, so I'm going to start yakking again. So my point is that 2 out of 3 people, I think, are more friendly. We talk more. We're just, discussing this insanity and this and that, and still buffering, huh? Tell me when you see me back. Okay, back. All right. So I think I'm good. People are more friendly on average. So if I don't think that the corona is really working to separate us as much as you'd think. We're doing less social things, but when I do see people, we're more friendly. Now, about 1 out of 3 people, really, they look like they're scared to death. They're just on edge. They're tense. They're short, just short. Like they don't want to talk. It looks like they're like that close to losing their crap. So 1 out of 3, I would say, it's the reverse. But 2 out of 3 actually, like everybody's talking to me. If I just say hi, how's it going? How are you holding up? They're happy to talk. And used to be that people at work were kind of busy and they, a lot of times would just say a few things and move on. But, people want that, I don't know, that comfort of talking with others. Maybe it's better because I'm not all nervous, but I definitely notice a difference. It just the level of friendliness. When I first moved here, like over 20 years ago, it was more friendly like that. But the location has gotten more and more city-like, more and more Los Angeles-like. So it's suddenly dialed back like 25 years in the level of friendliness. It's much more friendly since this lockdown type deal. So no, I don't think that it is going to cause us to dislike our fellow human. It's not working. Maybe for 1 out of 3, but the other 2/3 are making up for it. People are going to be more standoffish and then nothing. Yeah, nope. I haven't seen it. So I'm thinking that once the lockdown is over, we might go back to normal. But I don't think that people are gonna. Neighbors have talked to me, and my neighbor at work, my work neighbor, which is not near my home, so came over and started shooting the breeze. So I mean, he didn't get like super close to me when he was standing, but he's never been that loquacious. He's always been more guarded. All right, so got. Okay, and this is another one. Now, I've heard of referred pain, but I have not heard of referred itches. This is a new one for me. Referred itches. I think it. Whoops. Wait. You know what? I don't actually want to lose that window. I want to use that window. Referred itch. I've not heard of this. So basically they're saying that, and the range that they gave, it's between 10 and 90% of the population. Really between 10 and 90% of the population. Like, we don't know, we can't narrow it down any better than this. How long has this thing been around and we don't know this? Okay, so a referred itch is like, say you get like a scratch or an itch here, you itch here, then you would feel the touch on some other part of your body, and that's a referred itch. Now, I used to hear about referred pain, and basically they would say, like, say you have a pain in an organ, and there's a muscle nearby, and the muscle is long, and then you might feel pain along the whole muscle because of the illness on the one end of the muscle, and they would call that a referred pain. But this one, it doesn't seem to have any real logic, because they're not saying that the spots that you feel the itch and then kind of feel the ghost itch are necessarily obviously related. So then they're guessing that maybe it's something in the brain getting confused. There's all this blah, but I've never heard of this before. Referred itch, and 10 to 90% of the population? I mean, come on. You'd think they'd be studying this and have it narrowed down a little bit, because that's like a huge range. It's ridiculous. All right, so I call suspicious on that one. Yeah, there's words like poop and pee in the Bible, unicorn. What was there? Was something else. There's a bunch of weird stuff now. I fall for trolls. I take people at face value. It's hard to know what's true anymore with the Mandela, because people say some outrageous thing and they're just joking, and you're like, is that real? And then you have to go, check the wiki or something. Some of it's ridiculous and turns out to be true, and other stuff, it turns out they're just pulling your leg. But no matter how outrageous something sounds now, I can't be sure. I have to go check. Oh, okay, so there was a troll in here. Yeah, just get rid of him then. Dark Wolf knows who to boot. Yeah, I can't always watch them all. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, so, all right, this is another ME for me. I just started seeing these images the last few months, maybe 4 months. I saw these images and I thought that it was like an old wives' tale or like an ancient myth. And then I saw it and I also kind of thought maybe it was something out of like a video game. But it's this. And I only just now figured out that these really existed. I don't know if you've seen this, these mask things. And they were in they're in cartoons and stuff. But I've never heard of this actually being these plague doctors apparently in the current timeline, there really were doctors that wore this outfit, um, and in the real history of, our history, that they wore this, and they were called plague doctors. I thought it was something out of a video game or something. I've never heard of this being real. A plague doctor was a medical physician who treated victims of the bubonic plague. In times of epidemic, these physicians were especially hired by towns where the plague had taken hold. So supposedly they put like some kind of smelling salts or perfumes or something in the nose part in order to like not smell. Why did plague doctors' masks have beaks? To protect them from being infected by the disease, which they believe was airborne. In fact, they thought disease was spread by miasma. That's funny because now we do think that a lot of viruses are spread by air. They called it miasma. So they wore these beak masks to prevent the miasma from getting them. I gotta say, I mean, like, try to make yourself as scary looking as possible. Why don't you? I don't really understand why they would really do that. Out of desperation, cities hired a new breed of physicians, so-called plague doctors, who were either second-rate physicians, young physicians with limited experience, or who had no certified medical training at all. Physicians had subscribed to miasma theory, which was the idea that contagion spread through foul-smelling air. So this uniform was invented by Charles de Lorme, the chief physician of Louis the 13th. The nose, half a foot long, shaped like a beak, filled with perfume. Under the coat, we wear boots made in Moroccan leather, goat leather, and a short-sleeved blouse and smooth skin. The hat and gloves are made of the same skin, with spectacles over the eyes. Because they believed that smelly vapors could catch in the fibers of their clothing and transmit disease, Lorme designed a uniform with a waxed leather coat, leggings, boots, and gloves intended to deflect miasmas from head to toe. The suit was then coated in sweat, hard white animal fat to repel bodily fluids. The plague doctor also donned a prominent black hat to indicate that they were in fact a doctor. Like the giant beak was not going to inform you of who this was, but that big black hat, now you knew. This doesn't even make any sense. I don't know. The doctor carried along with stick, which he used to communicate with patients, examine them, and occasionally ward off the more desperate and aggressive ones. You need a stick to communicate with patients. I guess you can't talk through your giant beak. Foul-smelling air was combated with sweet herbs and spices like camphor, mint, blah, 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 stuffed into a mask with the beak. Anyway, so I never heard of this actually being a real outfit that was actually used in our real history. We certainly studied the plague many times in school. I was really shocked, frankly, to hear that that was an actual outfit. He showed one on the wall on HBO's Westworld. Yeah, how recently was that though? I mean, I don't know when this one came to be. It might have been around for a few years, so. Okay, so Google Vizard. I heard about a couple days ago. Vizard. On Reddit, they say, risky click of the day. You click on a link, you have no idea what it'll be. A vizard, spelled vizard, is an oval mask of black velvet worn by traveling women in the 16th century to protect their skin from sunburn. It was not held at the head by a fasting, but rather the wearer would clasp a bead attached to the interior of the mask between their teeth. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that... First of all, I have freaking never heard of that. The whole idea that you would just clasp a bead between your teeth instead of just wrapping around the back. How comfortable would that be? That would be totally not comfortable. I don't care how good your hair is. They should be able to have something that clipped around and went down the back or something so you didn't have to like chomp it between your teeth. I assume you're supposed to be walking some of this time. That's ridiculous. Totally uncomfortable. You'd be all slobbered on. For refined upper class ladies in the 16th century Europe, getting a tan was not a good look. So you had to wear the vizard. Only a handful of surviving vizards have ever been found. An outer layer of black velvet, followed by layers of pressed paper with a lining of silk on the inside. The oval face covering extends out to accommodate the nose, and there are small holes for eye holes and an opening for the mouth. Yeah, no. Yeah, good find. That was, who did you say found that? Whoever found it, good find. People with Okay, yeah, I have to give it to you on the Vizard. It sounds a lot like wizard too. Vizard. I'm not even sure how you pronounce that. Vizard. Kind of an interesting word choice there. Vizard. Okay, and then we've got the world's largest giant ookie worm, because we haven't seen a super nasty other than the snakes yet. How big is the biggest icky? Well, I think we're going by weight here. Oops, you know what? I don't want to lose that window. I want to lose this window. So apparently there's this 30-pound worm called a black sea hare. So there it is. They get 30 pounds and they get 3 feet long. And look, it's got these weird oogie bits. Basically, it's gross. I was thinking of making that the thumbnail because that would be like this blob monster. Like, what is that? It's got sticky ookie things all over it. It looks like some kind of giant Dr. Seuss trumpet sticking out of one end. A couple of antennas over there. That looks like a pretty small one. But they get 30 pounds and 3 feet long. So that's pretty crazy. Black sea hare. All right. One more. I've got 2 more. I'm coming down the home stretch. That's the grossest thing you'll see today. Well, unless, I don't know, this night. All right, this one. Let's do the right window this time. Doink. Dollar Tree. I think I've talked about in the last few weeks the Dollar Tree. I don't think they have a logopedia. That the sign is tipping. They don't have a logo. You know, if I actually spelled it right, I might have a shot at it. Here we go. They don't have a Lopedia, but they do have a Logopedia. All right, so the Dollar Tree sign is tipping, as you see here. But this one was observed by a user on Retcon called J 11 _ 11. So it's JAYE 11 _ 11 J1111. Notice this tree was not at all as that person remembered it, and it is not how I remember it either. It's very orderly suddenly. It was not long ago that I remember it. It's kind of like long rectangles, and there was branches, and then the rectangles were a little bit stylized. They weren't leaf shaped. They were like little rectangles, but they went this way and that, like they really were leaves. And there were branches that were kind of zigzaggy like this, and then the leaves were kind of it wasn't this. This I would say is like a brand new logo, but according to the current timeline, that's the only tree they've ever had. Oops, couldn't get back. The tree I remember never existed. And from what I heard of the user on Redcon, it sounded like that person was remembering a similar tree. Now you notice it has a number 1 on there now. It never had that before. Dollar Tree. I don't remember this weird font on the 91 to 2006. I've never seen that either. So I've never seen this tree. Now, one thing that the user was noticing that I realized too is that just about all the locations used to have the old tree, but very few locations now even have a tree. Most of them just say Dollar Tree by itself without the tree. I don't think I've actually laid eyes on this tree in real life, because all the Dollar Trees near me just say Dollar Tree with the tilt. I kept looking at the tilt going, there's something wrong with it. But yeah, it's missing the tree. That's the other thing. None of my local ones have the tree anymore. I do remember driving by local ones and seeing the old style tree. And I kind of inspected, all the things about that Dollar Tree. And I also have mentioned, I know it's been a while, but I actually remember them originally being the Dollar Store. And then suddenly they were all the Dollar Tree. And it was the Dollar Store. And then it was I can't remember if it was the Dollar Tree or it went straight to Dollar Tree. But it used to be the Dollar Store. And then they were all Dollar Trees. So, like, the same location became a Dollar Tree. So I assumed Dollar Tree had taken over or changed the name or something. But no, there never has been the Dollar Store anywhere around here. You can't find it. They never existed. So the Dollar Tree for me is one of those things that's disappeared. It's now Dollar Tree. But this is much, that was years ago. This is much more recently, this new tree thing that they have. Yeah, I see it looks like combed hair to me now, like comb it all straight. Yeah, it was all, I like the old tree a lot better. I have to say that having the number 1 in there is pretty sneaky as far as a marketing strategy. But yeah, no, that was not there. Does anybody remember Sprouts, Ritz, or Coronet stores? Not here in California, I don't. He said 2 days Pacific time at 5:30 a.m. Look to the sky. Well, we'll find out. Somebody get their video camera out, because I'm not waking up at 5:30 in the morning. Besides, 5:30 in the morning where? One Dollar Tree is closed to idolatry. Okay, so according to this, up to 91 was only $1. I've never seen that. I have never seen that. Up to 91, no, I've never seen that. And then it was this funky tree here that it currently was from 91 to 2006. And then here, it's the same tree, but the font is different, and it's got the tip. And that's been since 2006. For me, the tip has just showed up in the last 6 months, though. I've never seen this font. I've never seen that. It was the Dollar Store. So, yeah, no. I actually looked all over the internet for the old tree. maybe an old sign or something. And it's not that old, you know. It was not long ago that it had the old that it had the I consider it the nicer tree. It was more. It had more of a world tree, you know, kind of look to it. But no, I can't find it anywhere. I couldn't find anything like it. I even looked up dollar store like tattoos and stuff. Believe it or not, there are some, but it did not have the old tree. Okay, so one more. I can't remember if I have mentioned this one before. I do not remember this at all. I totally do not remember that Alaska was originally owned by Russia and that we bought Alaska from Russia. I actually do not remember Russia. It makes sense in this timeline because Russia is so close. They're just like a hop, skip, and a jump from Alaska here. There used to be this giant ocean between, and Alaska was never owned by Russia. Alaska was formally transferred to the United States in 1867. Russia had established a presence in North America during the first half of the 17th century, but few Russians ever settled. So basically, the Alaska Purchase now was made with Russia. We gave them, a couple millions or something. Wasn't that much, you know. I guess it was a lot back then, but... I do remember us buying it. I think, who was it that thought it was, like... France, or it was one of those, I'm pretty sure it was France. It was like one of those European countries that we bought it from. It was not Russia. I'm thinking it was France. That one really sticks in my head. It was not Russia. So weird. History of Alaska. American Russia. Yeah, no. Weird. Alaska, yep. Oliver Henry doesn't remember. Alaska was owned by Canada. No, Russia. Russia had established, you know, there's no evidence that Canada ever had it. Russia had it, and then they sold it to us. Well, like I said, it makes sense because Russia's right there now. And a loot named Alaska was chosen by Americans. The name had earlier in the Russian era denoted the Alaska Peninsula, where the Russians had called Alyaska. Also Alyaxa. Also Alyaxa or Alyaska. So yeah, Canada didn't own it, basically. Oh, the Louisiana Purchase was France. That's true. Canada. I just know it wasn't Russia. You know, Russia was like the enemy when I was growing up. It's something that would stick in my head, that if Alaska was ever in any part of the North America or South America, I would have probably stuck in my head because they were the Cold War enemy, the evil empire. Remember learning it was a bargain. We found oil there. Some people do remember Russia. That's interesting. It was for sure Canada. Let's see. Did Canada ever own it? Own Alaska. Let's just check it out. I just know we did not buy it from Russia. The United States bought Alaska in 1867 from Russia in the Alaska Purchase, but the boundary terms were ambiguous. When did Canada sell Alaska to the U.S.? The Senate approved the Treaty of Purchase in April 9. That's weird because the question is Canada. And they're talking about it was transferred in 1867, but it wasn't Canada that we just read. It was Russia. Who sold Alaska, Canada or Russia? Secretary of State purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Who owned Alaska before Russia? All right, it's not answering that. Okay. History of Alaska. Let's just see if Canada ever had it. It doesn't sound like the way they're saying, because they're saying that Russia established, people from Russia got established on there. So it sounded like they were the first. Who originally owned Alaska? Russia controlled most of the area from the late 1700s till 1867. Why did Canada not buy Alaska? All right, I'm going to go to the wiki history and see what we get. Pre-colonization, colonization. I mean, I assume that there were native populations like Native Americans on there. So before, not including the Native Americans, who was the first to claim? First European vessel to reach Alaska, Fyorodov on 1732. Expedition of Siberian Cossack A.F. Shestakov, Russian explorer. So the first European vessel was a Russian explorer. Another European contact. Russian Navy aboard the St. Peter. 1774 to 1800. Spain sent several expeditions to Alaska in order to assert its claim over the Pacific Northwest. A Spanish settlement was built at the fort. Later, the Russian-American company carried out an expanded colonization program. Sitka, renamed New Archangel from 1804 to 1867, became the capital of Russian America. See, those words together just sound wrong. Russian America. There was no Russian America other than in post-apocalyptic TV shows about Russia taking over America. There was no Russian America. And then, so basically, it sounds like the Spanish, the Russians were the first on there. It makes sense because in this timeline, Russia is just right there. It's like so close. It's like a few hundred miles away. You could walk across in winter because of the ice. So it'd be surprising if they weren't the first there. So Spain sent a few expeditions, but Russia was first. Russia took over. Russia had it the whole time, and we bought it from Russia. Russian America. Sounds so wrong. They sold Alaska to America as they wanted protection against Russia. I think Lone Eagle even talked about this a year ago. Could be. I don't know, So in your timeline, they sold us Alaska to protect against Russia. See, in my timeline, Russia was so far away. I just remember weren't many people up there. We offered them some money. They're like, okay, why not? We're not using it. Here, you could have Alaska. There wasn't really much more beyond that. So yeah, Canada did not own it in this timeline. I see nothing about Canada. They mention a bit about Spanish colonization, but Russia obviously got it first and most. So that was Shari D that they sold us Alaska to protect us from Russia. But in this timeline, Russia had Alaska already. I saw the documents about selling Alaska to America. Yeah, see, my timeline, there was so much space. Russia was so far away. You didn't really have to worry about them. So it looks like about half of you remember Russia. That's pretty interesting. I know it wasn't them because it was it was some kind of ally type person. We never had Russia on our North American soil. It just seems like a crime. It's almost as weird as fangs on a deer. Swivel out, pop out fangs. That is the Mandela effect for this week. But this Russian one is weird, but I think the animal ones are my favorite. Okay, so that's all I've got, I think. Let me just scan over this thing. That. Dollar Tree. Got you. Oh, you know what? I do have one more. This one's going to be tricky to say without losing my, without triggering the soup Nazis on YouTube, but we will try. Just be careful what you type in your comments there, so I don't lose my search engine traffic, if you will. Okay, so neotrogla. This was found by user mindkillaz on retconned, MIND_KILLAZ. Good find, Mr. or Mrs. Mindkillaz. Okay, so what's a neotrogla? Neotrogla. It's a bark lice. But what's weird about this bark lice is that they have reverse sex roles. So basically, the female has a big old appendage that she jams into the male and sucks the little swimmers out of the male, and also sucks a bunch of fluids out of the male. So she actually gets like nutrients by doing this, by slurping out the little swimmers. And so it's like reverse sex. She's, in charge of getting, putting it in and getting out the stuff. So it's like reverse. It's totally weird. So never heard of that. Kind of a little bit weird, similar to the was that dog family creature that has a little bit of that. But anyways, this timeline loves this kind of stuff, so I think that we'll probably find more of this going on. How I managed to not mention that one. Do you remember Gorby's birthmark of Russia located on his head? It was on his big baldy head. It's if he doesn't have a giant port wine stain on his top of his head, I am going to Gorbachev stain. Hopefully that's enough. Port wine stain. Okay. Yep, it's still on there. Oh, interesting. It looks like some country now. So there's an archipelago that looks like the stain on his head now. Never heard of that one. I don't really remember it looking quite like that, but overall, yeah, I remember it more spidery looking. It really does look like that archipelago now. Look at that. It even has it even has those dots like the archipelago has. That is weird. Look, I don't remember those dots on the side of his head off the stain too. So I do think the stain overall looks different, but I do remember it on his noggin. Really, it was on his forehead for you? I do remember it like I remember it a little different than that though. And I mean, it's kind of on his forehead, but I just remember it more spidery. Now it really does look like this archipelago. That's pretty weird. I don't remember it looking like anything. I mean, I think they would have totally said it looks like a specific archipelago. And bigger. Yeah, I do remember it being bigger. It had more like blobby tendrils. I don't know how to describe it. I'm writing with style with that ME. Yeah. Well, had to go with the port wine stain since we're on the subject of Gorbachev. More like a blotch. Yeah, it looked more like an ink stain. It didn't look like an archipelago. And I don't remember those separate dots at all. All right, I'm just going to check and see if I still have... You know, it's weird because I thought a lot of these pages were gone. Now they're back. Maybe it's in here. Nope. One of these should say whether I have lost my monetization or not. I'm just wondering if that last one gave me the giant boot master. I'm always just curious how quickly they catch words, and I did use the SEX word, so more like a blotch. Yep. I do remember it more like on his head, kind of like where it is though, but I don't remember it looking like that. Now it's bugging me. Doop, 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 doop. Studio. Yeah, I don't know the new studio at all. Then I have to, where would they do the live streams? I'm going to have to go to the classic. I have no idea where. Skip. Once they get rid of the classic studio, I'll be especially massively confused. There, monetization. Well, it's not telling me anything. Oh, that's not the live stream. It's got to be under events. I thought I clicked on events. Oh, it didn't get me yet. I got away with it so far. Now, I would not be at all surprised that I get up in the morning and I've lost monetization. But whatever little algorithms hunt through my words, they haven't caught me yet. Woohoo! My elaborate techniques have worked. Have you talked about the unicorn puppy? No. Blobby like Italy or Argentina. I kind of remember it more, I don't know, more blob, more tentacles on it. All right, I'm gonna check up. I'll check on the unicorn puppy here in a sec. If it's not a live stream, it's a dead stream. Well, you know, if they kill the monetization, it's not like I might make a dollar or two on the monetization. I really make very little, but what it does is it kills your place in the search engine, so like nobody's gonna find it, which bothers me more. All right, so unicorn puppy. I think I make about $1.25 per live stream or something. I'm gonna have to check that. It might be up a tad, but it was some like piddly amount, like 75 cents or something. Oh, unicorn puppy has one ear sticking out of her head. Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't seen that. Interesting. 2 days ago. Okay, so he's fresh off the. Okay, interesting. So it's got one here. See, I've seen this one, this unicorn puppy where it has this. Is that the same guy? But it was like this little tail thing. So did this tail thing grow into an ear thing? Or is that a different puppy? It looks like the same puppy, but that tail thing looks nothing like this ear thing. Yeah, see that had like a little tail thing. I think it's a different guy. Yeah, see, look, because this guy has both his ears, and this guy only. It's like the same puppy, except for this one has its ears, and this one has one ear on the top. Okay, so the old unicorn puppy, which is this one, is not the new unicorn puppy who has one ridiculous ear on top of its head. That's cute, though. This one is kind of an older one. So let's look at the new unicorn puppy with one ear. So where's like the internal ear organs located then in his skull, I wonder? Looks like a mohawk, really. It's pretty cool. So yeah, lots and lots of these weird morphologies these days. There was another puppy born green. It was more green than the last one that was born green. I wonder how long it'll be until they stain doesn't wash off. So yeah, cool. Unicorn puppy. It's cute. Doom. So looking. Yep, okay, it's time for me to go to bed. It is time. I wonder how long these fangs are going to get on that deer, because every time I look, it's longer and longer. They're going to be like saber-toothed deer if this keeps up. All right, so guys, thank you, as usual. Not a lot of you came, but you did have a lot of stuff to contribute today, so that helps. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.